to sip a cup of cappuccino.
Fabio Capello, a sophisticated, urbane Italian genius, a man who seemed destined to lead England to glory.
There's no doubt that he is one of the top managers in Europe.
Never loses his cool, you know, always calm, collected.
But the England job does funny things to people, and as the pressure mounted, something strange started happening to our nice Mr. Capello.
He literally went from the calm, composed, well-dressed Italian to a mentalist.
It was like watching Postman Pat have a breakdown.
Both coaches are blowing a fuse.
He just could not believe what he was seeing.
It was just mad.
But the biggest shock came in England's third game against Slovenia when Capello turned on his assistant, Stuart Psycho Pearce, and started bullying the legendary former England hardman.
Who has a go with Stuart Pearce? He's Psycho. You don't upset Psycho.
Capello has him stand up, then tells him to sit down, and tells him to stand back up again.
What do you think you do? Why you look so sad?
With him, he's like that. Get up, sit up, get up.
Shut up in your face.
England on the verge of going out of the World Cup, Capello's playing the hokey-cokey.
That was one of the saddest days of my life, was seeing Stuart Pearce not punch him.
You know, he's a bit of a bully, and I don't like that. I'm very anti that. I actually bought one of those anti-bullying charity wristbands when they came out. I say bought, I stole it off a fat ginger kid.
History tells us the Dutch are all about the elegance and flair of Johan Cruyff and Dennis Bergkamp. But trust me, that's all old hat. This year they ditched total football and went for total destruction instead.
Holland was so dirty. They were statistically the dirtiest team in the tournament.
Yes, they adopted the ugly game, and the ugliest of all was midfielder Mark van Bommel.
Yes, some of his challenges were very, very crude. A bit nasty sometimes. But he wasn't afraid to put his foot in.
There it is. Oh. Bad to the bone.
Filthy dirty Bommel, I think they were shouting at him.
You know, he'd obviously been given a remit to go out and break things up.
Yeah, like legs.
I mean, he'll just forever be remembered for continually and persistently fouling everybody.
He must be sent off. He must be sent off.
Yes, it was shocking he was dirty, but the biggest shock of all was that somehow Van Bommel didn't get sent off.
Van Bommel has got away without being booked in this game. Totally beats me.
He is, he's dirty, but he's a bloody good player, so it's difficult, isn't it? He managed to get away with it.
I was at one of the games when I thought, he can't do another. He cannot do another tackle without getting sent off.
Prior to the final, the dirtiest player in the tournament did manage to pick up one yellow card. Not for a foul, but for dissent.
And there's a yellow card for Van Bommel for dissent.
And his face said it all. He was shocked someone had actually booked him.
I don't know whether he was the dirtiest player in the whole World Cup. All I do know, he was the luckiest. And I applaud him for that. How he got away with it, I will never, never know.
Germany's manager, Joachim Löw, has it all. Good looks, a great team, a lovely blue jumper, and a full head of glossy, lustrous hair.
He looks a bit like a Beatle throughout this tournament with his dress sense and his hair.
He come across as quite a cool kind of guy, you know, leaning up against the dugout with his little cardigan on, you know, I like cardigan.
I mean, he doesn't look like a national football manager, does he?
They were like a guy that got divorced and was then trying to get back out on the scene again to try and pick up a young lady.
He was a German style icon, or he would have been if he hadn't forgotten one thing: cameras, lots of them.
The camera had zoomed in on him, and it was so unfortunate that at this point he gets his finger and decides to have a bit of a pick of the nose. Not just a little pick, a massive rummage.
And it got worse.
Surely not. He can't put that in his mouth. And he starts off rolling it in the fingers in a bit of a bogey roll. It's like, oh my God, camera's still on him. Then the bogey goes in his mouth. We're all like this, like going, no, take it out. What are you doing? The camera's still on you. And then he starts chewing it, looking like he's enjoying it, really sort of making a meal out of it. Absolutely disgusting.
My little boy who's 3 years old likes to have a little pick, a roll and a slip in his mouth, you know, with the bogeys. And even he's aware of where he is sometimes. He's at the World Cup. The cameras are going to be on you, watching you.
The world is watching. I think like 2 billion people watch the World Cup. He obviously just doesn't care. He doesn't care that people know that he eats bogeys.
I mean, I've got nothing against him eating his bogey. Just don't let everyone see it. Don't get caught on telly.
At a World Cup, you need a manager who is strict, dignified and unflappable. Unless you're Argentina. They chose gastric-banded, journalist-shooting, tax-dodging, drug-fiend Maradona. Yes, he was back, and this time, he was in charge.
How good was Maradona at this World Cup? I mean, in terms of management, rubbish. But in terms of, like, entertainment, he was right up there.
The highlight of the World Cup was seeing Maradona do his press conferences. He just never knew what was going to happen.
He's just raving nuts, isn't he? In the nicest sense of the word.
But if he was strangely friendly to the media, it was nothing compared to the affection he showed his players.
When Tevez scored, I think, against Mexico, he got 10 seconds of huggage. 10 seconds? That long of huggage.
And it led to perhaps his most shocking press conference contribution when a brave BBC journalist dared to question Diego about this close relationship.
So are you naturally affectionate with everybody?
The Spanish translators are going, he's calling you gay! He's calling you gay! What do you say to him?
And his eyes, it's like he was possessed or something. His eyes widen.
Is this something that you learned as a player?
And then he goes on to tell us about how he's got the girlfriend and how he's not a homosexual. Do you know what? Have you ever heard the phrase protesting a bit too much?
Leave it, Diego, he's not worth it. Unfortunately, Argentina went out in the quarter-finals and there were no more press conferences for Diego. Still, time for one last hug. Back in 2006, the biggest shock was that England selected barely known teenager Theo Walcott. He'd never kicked a ball in the Premiership, but apparently that didn't matter.
It is a gamble, of course it's a gamble, I can't deny that. But it's a nice one, I think.
Someone said, have you heard Theo Walcott's in? And I said, almost Theo who? And he said, yeah, he's played a few games, and I was absolutely amazed.
So was Theo. He didn't play a minute, but of course the experience would be invaluable this time around, and now he was tipped to start.
But the one thing is that he has got talent. And my goodness, did this England team need something a bit different.
Here's the man whose hat-trick launched the entire World Cup campaign. Theo Walcott was the most sort of nailed-on member of the squad.
And Theo knew it too.
Yeah, it feels so much better than last time. Hopefully this time actually playing in the Premier League, getting a chance to play in the qualifiers and do quite well.
You put you there by rights this time?
Well, yeah, of course.
And then came the bombshell.
Theo Walcott has been left out of Fabio Capello's squad. He joined 6 others who won't be boarding the plane to South Africa.
And I miss you.
To drop Theo Walcott, I think, was madness.
Theo Walcott was probably more surprised not to go this time than was surprised when he actually went in 2006 when we all went, what?
Walcott's had a peculiar career. The better he gets, the more he's not allowed to play for England.
He gets picked when he probably didn't deserve it, and then he gets left out when he probably did.
So we can only assume in another 4 years he'll be the world's greatest player and he won't even get into the reserve team.
Ivory Coast's cunning linguist Emmanuel Aboué speaks English and French, but until his country's 3rd game of the World Cup, nobody had any idea that he'd also apparently mastered Korean.
One of the funniest moments of the World Cup was when Aboué walks over to the North Korean manager as he's given a briefing to one of his players, And Abui joins in with the briefing.
It's clear about 2 seconds in that he has no idea what's going on, and he still just does that really funny front of him going, yeah, cool.
And it's that last nod, isn't it? That he almost like he's like, I know what you're saying.
I know Abui has said that he wants to be the next Eddie Murphy. If he's meant that as a gag, I take my hat off to him. It was awesome.
In 2006, Raymond Domenech guided France to the World Cup final, where one player's self-destructive headbutt ended his tournament in disgrace. But in South Africa 2010, the French squad shocked the world by going one further. The whole team ended their tournament in disgrace.
Sacre bleu! What went on with the French team?
The French team was just getting worse and worse.
They just fell to pieces.
It started in their second group game against Mexico. The French suffered a disastrous defeat. Striker Nicolas Anelka called Domenech a naughty word.
Anelka called him, I believe it, son of a... And everyone's supposed to go, Anelka, you old cardy, come on. But that didn't happen, he got sent home.
To actually see him sent packing was unheard of. I'd never seen anything like that before.
So you don't call your boss the son of in almost any contest. That's one of the main rules of life.
Domenech hoped his firm, decisive action would put a lid on things, but remember, this is the French we're talking about.
France's World Cup goes from bad to worse, with mutiny spreading through the squad.
The rest of the team then got together and backed Nicolas Anelka, and they wanted him back into the squad.
The French, being typically enigmatic and French, decided, right, middle of the World Cup, we're going to go on strike.
And you're thinking, at the World Cup, refuse to train.
As if that wasn't shocking enough, they then gave a statement to the manager explaining their madness and made the poor love read it out to the press.
To mark their opposition to the highest level of French football, all players have decided not to participate in training.
That's really pretty humiliating for him. There was a lot of shots during the World Cup of him just standing there on the touchline, looking like he'd been quite heavily bullied. But still, it takes someone like the French to actually go to war with their own manager.
The French were falling apart, but the pièce de résistance, that's French by the way, was still to come, when the French captain and the fitness coach almost came to blows.
And then you see Patrice Evra, to start with, arguing with the fitness coach, getting quite heated. The camera stays on them. You see Raymond Domenech go up. Patrice Evra storms off. He throws his World Cup badge down. The fitness coach storms off.
Oh, it's such a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you.
It was such a bizarre moment. All of this was being shown live out on camera. It's something that they kind of want to keep behind closed doors, this.
You couldn't have written the story about the French. I mean, England thought they had problems at the World Cup, but I mean, the French basically just capped it all. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
France still had one game left to rescue their tournament, but as we'll see later, the shocks would keep on coming. Portugal's Ronaldo is clearly a man in love with himself. And why not? After all, he's a perfectly reasonable footballer. But the rest of the world is more divided when it comes to Cristiano.
I think he's like Marmite, isn't he? You either love him or you hate him.
Listen to the boos for Ronaldo.
He's such an arrogant isn't he?
Which meant that when his Portugal side were dumped out of the World Cup by the favourite Spain, most people were happy to see him go.
Ronaldo hardly got a sniff. Very disappointing tournament for him.
But Cristiano wasn't happy to go at all. In one of the World Cup's nastiest, shocking moments, he showed he was quite angry. In fact, he was spitting mad.
It's quite sad, really, that the most memorable thing Ronaldo did in the whole World Cup was just spit into a camera.
Ronaldo walks away in disappointment.
It's like he's spitting from you know, up there with Zeus and all those dudes, just spitting down on us mere mortals.
That's disgusting, you know. That's the worst thing. And I bet his mum killed him when she see that.
The World Cup isn't just a battle of nations, it's a battle of the broadcasters. Only one of them was about to score a spectacular own goal. The whole country had gathered around their tellies, got the beers in, and were looking forward to watching England take on the USA. And after just 4 minutes, we were delirious when we saw Steven Gerrard score a sublime goal. It could not have started better. Well, unless you were watching on ITV in HD, where you saw something like this. Oh, buy my car.
Oh my God! ITV HD!
I got HD, have you? Well, you can see everything clearly except the goals.
I left the room to brush my teeth, and then I heard a car advert.
A very poor advertisement for high definition. If that's the future of TV, I'm out.
And then my phone started going nuts. England have scored. I'm like, what? I almost choked on my toothbrush.
The feed came back just in time for the celebrations, but HD viewers had missed the high point of England's entire tournament.
I couldn't believe that some idiot had pressed the button to go to advert during what was England's finest moment. Their only moment in the entire campaign.
Ultimately, if ITV had a policy of showing ads over England goals, it really wouldn't have mattered. There'd have been 3 ads.
We might revere him as one of the best players on the planet, but there was something strangely wrong with Wayne Rooney this summer. But while experts have blamed his lacklustre performances on everything from fatigue to altitude sickness, we can now reveal the shocking reason behind his loss of form.
So he's thinking up all the possible ideas of how he can turn this around quickly. Then he finally came up with it. He's looking down, he thinks, look at me, I'm not performing very well, I'm not playing my best. That is quite a lot of hair here. Maybe if I just got rid of this would turn around my fortune, yeah.
Nobody knows quite why, but in one of the biggest shocks in footballing history, Wayne Rooney stunned the world by shaving off his trademark manly chest rub.
He's got a bit of a carpet on his chest normally, and he was completely smooth as a baby's bum.
No, we don't want none of that. You scored a lot of goals at Man United, looking horrible, Shrek.
He was too distracted with the regrowth, you know, just, Rooney, the ball's coming your way. It's so itchy. What next? Moisturising? Exfoliating? This is not the Wayne Rooney we know. Stop it, Wayne. It's not good.
The All Whites, as they're cleverly known, came into the tournament ranked 78th in the world, meaning they're even worse than Wales, with whom they share a love of sheep.
And New Zealand's relationship to football was pretty much pick that shit up and run with it. You know, I had mates who played football, but we just thought they were a bit weird.
They had one player who didn't even have a club, and another who worked full-time in a Wellington bank.
I think it's great. I think it's wonderful that a part-time footballer, a banker, could come on during the World Cup.
Over it comes from Smells. It's a chance. Oh, and it's an equaliser.
But having shocked everyone by holding Slovakia to a draw in their first game, they took on Italy, who were the world champions, 4-time winners, and, you know, a proper team.
New Zealand's got 25 professional football players, and then when we played Italy, that's a country that's got 25,000 professional football players.
This is going to be an easy one. If we don't win this one by 6-0, then we should go home anyway.
The world was expecting a hammering, but amazingly, the Kiwis took the lead.
Useful delivery as well. Only needed a touch. Would you believe it? New Zealand in front. The reigning champions are behind to the team ranked 78 in the world.
Boom, ball in the goal, and everyone's like, did that just happen? Did that just happen? What does this mean?
And despite an Italian equaliser, New Zealand held on to record one of the greatest shocks in World Cup history.
It's a day that will live long in the memory of New Zealand football.
Like, no one expected it. But suddenly it was like, whoa, okay, it's a win.
4 days later, New Zealand played Paraguay and again surprised everyone to earn a 0-0 draw. They didn't get enough points to progress to the second round, but thanks to Spain's defeat to Switzerland, the All-Whites flew home as the only undefeated nation in the tournament. While New Zealand were shocking the world by being good, their Group F rivals and world champions Italy were shocking everyone by being rubbish. When they played their last group match, they would be out if they got beaten by Minnows Slovakia.
And they might pay for it. Vita! Slovakia 1, Italy 0. Second chance for Hamsik. Oh, Vita at the near post! And Italy could be sliding ignominiously out of the World Cup. Good save! Di Natale!
At 2-1 down in a pulsating game, Italy thought they'd equalised. But it was ruled out and the drama really started.
Slovakia is showing. Oh, and Marchetti under pressure. And is it the third? It is! And it's all over for Italy now!
The Italians managed to stage a late rally, and despite pulling one goal back, they missed a golden chance and the champions were dumped out of the World Cup.
That was one of the biggest shocks of the World Cup, just how poor Italy were.
Despite being in a group of minnows, they were out, amassing 2 measly points.
Italy, they didn't make it out of the group. They finished bottom. That is rock bottom.
I was quite relieved, to be honest, that we went out at such an early stage, because I thought I can't suffer this much longer. It was a very, very difficult time for Italian football.
What, no conspiracy theories? No bribery or corruption?
I still have a bit inside me that the referee had a bit to do with the last game we played.
Oh right, here it comes.
I still have inside me that the goal was probably a goal and the offside wasn't an offside. So, you know, the referee did play a big part in my brain for a while.
Let it go, Aldo.
Him as well.
Emile Heskey, it's safe to say, wouldn't have been most people's first choice to board the plane to South Africa. It's not that he's a bad footballer, it's just that he's, well...
I don't know why Heskey was there.
Well, Emile Heskey's been just our pantomime villain, hasn't he, for years?
I don't get him. He doesn't look like a footballer. He looks like the guy from the Green Mile.
But no sooner had Heskey picked up his free suit, he shocked the country by dramatically reducing our chances of success.
Within the last few minutes, it's been confirmed that England's football captain is out of the World Cup.
A sight that no England fan wanted to see. The devastated captain at hospital. And then later, on crutches, heading into an ambulance.
Oopsie daisy, I hurt you again.
Heskey, during a tackle, has fallen on top of Rio Ferdinand. He's the one that's caused this injury. I mean, come on, could it have been anybody else apart from Heskey?
He spent so many years trying to prove to everyone that he isn't a donkey. And then he goes and crushes Rio's knee before the tournament's even started.
I don't know why everyone hates him. I quite like the guy. And I think all this abuse is unneeded for Emile. He's a nice bloke.
Rio was out, but it was okay. We had Ledley King as backup.
England officials have said that Ledley King is being monitored on a daily basis amid reports that his World Cup is already over.
Oh. As we've seen, the French were having a shocking World Cup. Fantastic. They'd got 1 point in 2 games. Nicolas Anelka had been sent home and a lot of the players were rebelling. Well, one was revolting.
God knows what happened in that camp, because that was probably the worst camp in the World Cup for years.
But all was not lost for the French. If they thrashed a frankly ordinary South Africa, they'd go into the knockout stages.
You know, it's a chance for France to go out and prove, you know, how good they were, you know, because they still got a very talented squad.
Coach Raymond Domenech had left the revolting rebels out of his team. There were fresh, eager players on the pitch, dying for their chance to show the world how good they were.
The noise is absolutely deafening. Loris came, didn't get there, and South Africa lead. The cross was cleared away by Diaby, and then back across goal. Alan Taylor puts it in. South Africa have a second against the This is Frank Ribery.
They lamely lost 2-1 in a pitiful performance. France, the losing finalist 4 years ago, had fallen at the first hurdle. It was a huge shock. Even England hadn't managed to mess it up that badly.
And it was just like watching a team slowly ebb away. It's just like after sex, when you slowly ebb away and to nothingness. That's France. They're just the aftermath of an awful shag.
You know, they were so poor with all that talent at their disposal. France were the worst team I saw.
In one final, tawdry but entertaining shock, Domenech refused to shake the hand of the South African manager.
One of the things in football, you know, win 7-0, lose 7-0, whatever it is, you shake the opposition manager's hand. You just do it.
Managers not shaking hands is very, very disrespectful.
And the laughs continued as the French players were forced to fly home with normal people in economy class. Thierry Henry was summoned for an explanation by the Prime Minister Nicolas Sarkozy, and the French FA dished out lengthy bans to the key troublemakers.
They needn't have bothered turning up. I mean, they just, you know, they filled a place that could have been taken very admirably by any other team. Republic of Ireland, anyone?
Friday, 18th of June, Cape Town, and England take the field for their second game against Algeria, in desperate need of a win. But the game started a little flat and then got worse and worse.
It was one of the worst couple of hours you could ever spend in your life.
In fact, it was so dull that the cameraman's attention started to drift towards a small brown bird nestling quietly on the goal net.
So this bird appeared on the top of the goal, and everyone was like, it's a bird.
That bird, Tunde, knew that he wasn't going to get disturbed during the entire game.
But the real shock here was that the bird's presence was no accident. No, it later emerged that it had apparently been sent from Algeria by a witch doctor with only one thing in mind: to curse the three lions.
Black magic.
Well, this is typical, you see. We do everything, all the friendlies beforehand, all the training at altitude, the sports massage team that they have, and then you can't legislate for a witch doctor sending a bird.
I was surprised that Capello in the press conference afterwards didn't say, what did you expect? We've got a magic bird at the other end. We can't. I've got Emil Heskey, they've got a magic bird. You do it then.
Former Wimbledon player and Jamaican international Robbie Earle was one of ITV's star pundits, and a very credible one at that. But while working for the broadcaster at the World Cup, he caused his very own shocking moment.
You know, out of every World Cup comes a story of disgrace. It was Maradona in '94 with a drug scandal, Zidane's headbutt in 2006. Who would have thought in 2010 it would be Robbie Earle and his wandering tickets?
Yes, incredibly, Robbie got ditched from his job as a pundit because a horde of Dutch stunners were in seats allocated for his friends and family.
Yeah, they're my friends and family. That's 36 Dutch girls in not a lot of clothes, Robbie, you sure? Yeah, friends and family.
Breaking strict rules, Earle's tickets had been passed to a third party, who, without him knowing, got rid of them in the highest profile way possible.
See these beautiful Dutch girls on camera. I don't know what the fuss was. Hell, give that man more tickets.
The fuss was because it turned out the girls were an illegal ambush marketing ploy by Dutch beer company Bavaria.
I'd have given him to him if I was going to get in trouble. I reckon that Robbie Earle knew he was going to get in trouble, but just took one for the team.
Robbie got fired, the girls were arrested, and we were all forced to look at attractive Dutch girls in tight dresses.
Robbie, what a hero.
God bless you, Robbie.
Can America win tonight? Yes, USA's going to win 2-1. 2-1.
America, the land of baseball, the free and the gushingly emotional, not football. But as the World Cup proceeded, a 1-1 win against England and a series of simply super soccer games left the country in a state of World Cup fever.
I don't know what happened this year, but suddenly America discovered football. Sorry, soccer.
Following football became the kind of cool thing to do. Maybe not the general populace, but people that were in the know.
They had this movie star audience. You've got Leonardo DiCaprio.
Morgan Freeman's there. What's he doing there? Clinton was the classic. His post-match interview was a work of genius.
All great contests at some point become head games. Athletic contests, elections, wars.
War?
But by far the biggest shock of America's World Cup campaign was Landon Donovan's bizarre post-match press conference. Landon had just scored a last-minute winner against Algeria to send his nation through to the second round and came over all emotional.
I've been through a lot in the last 4 years. Starts to well up a little bit. I start to see a bit of a watery Landon Donovan. I'm like, is he about to cry? I'm so glad it culminated this way, and it makes me believe in good in the world.
I thought it was an Oscar acceptance speech he was doing.
When you try to do things the right way, it's good to see them get rewarded.
I'd like to say thank you to my wife, and this really sums up what America's all about, this fighting spirit.
My thought that was in my mind when he was doing the speech was, they are watching this in England, and they are going to be on Twitter in 5 seconds talking about how ridiculous Landon Donovan's speech was.
The World Cup is a chance to see the best players on the biggest stage. And fans everywhere licked their lips at the prospect of seeing Messi, Ronaldo, Rooney and Torres showing us why they're so revered. But the world was in for a surprise. It turned out they were all shockingly rubbish.
Even now he can't get his goal.
We had such high hopes and such high prospects in players that this year there was a Ronaldo and Rooney, and it was going to set the World Cup alight, and it just didn't.
Rooney was just, well, it was somebody else in Rooney's place, because it wasn't Wayne Rooney out there.
But none of them turned up. None of the big players turned up this year.
Yes, a lot of them crumbled under the pressure, but also there is the argument that did they really give a
6 days into the World Cup, and it was the turn of joint favourite Spain to take centre stage as they took on a highly mountainous but lowly rated Switzerland.
Well, everybody who went to see Spain and Switzerland expected Spain to actually trounce the Swiss.
But then the unthinkable happened. Switzerland took the lead with a scrappy goal. Maybe Casillas could have done better. The Swiss then hung on for dear life to register one of the biggest shocks in World Cup history. Then the media inquest started.
Media came up with Casillas' girlfriend, who's a presenter stroke reporter for one of the TV stations back in Spain, is standing behind the goal, and she put him off. Well, she's a beautiful scapegoat, isn't she?
What she called carbonara or something, you know, the most beautiful TV presenter in the world.
Close, Lindsay. Carbonara. And yes, she is fairly attractive.
If she'd been whispering stuff to him like, did you take the bins out before we left? Then that maybe he would have been like, yeah, that would put you off. But she was just standing there doing her job.
Come on, please. As pretty as she is, you know, distracting. If she's standing in front of you, yes, but not when she's standing behind you in the goals.
And the shocks didn't end there. The Spanish players retreated to the dressing room, and Captain Casillas was forced to face a Spanish Inquisition in the media area. Only the person asking the questions was, of course, his girlfriend.
Now imagine your partner's interviewing you. There's a woman wrong there then.
Oh, did you let a goal in? Oh, you're not supposed to, are you? Oh, you're going to win the World Cup now. Oh.
Can we still go on holiday?
Just what you need. A rubbish day at the office, and then you get an earful from the missus. Our old friend Diego Maradona might now look like a crazed mascot in an oversized suit, but he was once one of the greatest footballers ever to play the game.
If just someone never watched football, you go, that guy there, he's really good at football. He used to be amazing. He used to be the best player in the world.
off.
It was expected that the great man's razor-sharp footballing brain would make the crucial difference to Argentina's hopes.
He was just the director of the circus.
But the shock here was this ringmaster's radical approach to team discipline, revealed by the footage sneaked out of Argentina's training ground.
You're punished if you're not playing very well by having a ball booted as hard as possible at your bum.
I don't understand how that training ever applies. At what point in a match do you say, and guys, I know we're attacking, we're going to play 4-4-2 here, a couple of minutes left, we need a goal. Could you fire that ball at the bum?
Once you know that you can handle a ball being hit at your bum, you can, of course you can win the World Cup. It's bums, isn't it?
Nigeria's Super Eagles arrived at the World Cup very pleased with themselves and full of hope.
Nigeria, you know, have always been a decent side, some good individual players.
But in South Africa, they failed to win a single game and finished rock bottom of their group.
Nigeria are out. Another African team going out of this African World Cup.
It was a surprise, but the biggest shock was still to come when the Nigerian president, a man called Goodluck Jonathan, decided to ban the national team from playing any matches for 2 years.
He is one supporter.
I can't see David Cameron getting away with that.
It's just such a funny way of punishing them. You're not allowed to play anymore. It's like he's going to send them to bed without their tea and make them sit on a naughty step outside his palace for like a couple of weeks.
He's gone, no, you're not playing. That's it. Give me the keys to the lock-up. Right, I'm taking the balls, I'm having the lot. Okay, you'll have to... I don't care. It's my ball. I paid for it.
FIFA eventually persuaded Goodluck to change his mind, and the Super Eagles will soon return to a football stadium nowhere near you.
So good luck, Jono. Is that his name?
No, it's Goodluck Jonathan.
Good luck, Jonathan.
Exactly. It's the one essential ingredient of every World Cup match. Yes, a football. But when after months, probably years of testing, FIFA's 2010 Super Bowl was revealed, the world was shocked.
I don't know if you saw it. It was like no other ball we'd ever had before, because this ball was sort of round.
Designed by a team of super boffins at the University of Loughborough, it was called the Jubelani.
This is a complete new ball. First and foremost, it's a technological revolution.
Naturally, it had 8 thermally bonded panels, giving a bounce variance of just 6 centimetres, which is important. There was only one problem. It didn't work.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and stay right.
A lot of people had trouble with that Jubelani ball.
Messi never stopped rising. No.
The ball's tragic. There's going to be some crazy goals in this World Cup based on the ball.
It's supposed to be a nightmare for goalkeepers. It seemed to be a bit of a nightmare for strikers, especially ours.
Lampard to hit it. And Lampard to send it soaring into orbit.
I don't know why they just can't play with normal football. Why do they have to keep messing about with the football?
It's basically a giant beach ball. That's what it is. It's an $200 beach ball.
Of course, not everybody agreed it was a problem.
They were all saying, yeah, it keeps going up too high in the air. Well, I've got an idea. Why don't you kick it lower? Like Diego Forlan worked it out in the first match.
One of the very few people in this tournament who can get that ball up and down.
Actually, Van Bronckhorst got it up and down as well. And in fact, everyone German.
The excuses that were levelled at the design of this ball were incredible. How can a ball be too round?
If they showed up and it was having to kick a square or a triangle, I can understand, but it's a ball, it's still a bloody ball.
It's the end of England's second game, and after 2 grim performances, the England fans are making their feelings known as the team leave the pitch to a chorus of boos.
It's all over in Cape Town. Another poor performance from England. Boos ring around the Cape Town Stadium.
I think the fans had every right to boo. I was booing.
The Algerians actually had us on the back foot sometimes, you know, which shouldn't be happening when you're England.
What we were expecting was for the players to tell us they knew they'd let themselves down, that they felt bad for the fans, that they were going to do it for England and so on. But our old friend Wayne Rooney had something he wanted to get off his chest. No, not the hair.
Nice to see the whole fans booing you. That's what we're supporting. Weep, little lion man, you're not as brave as you were at the start.
Pure cheek of the man to do that.
I couldn't believe what I was watching.
It almost seemed not premeditated, but he obviously had some time to think about it. You know, it wasn't a reaction, which sometimes you can forgive.
Nice to see the whole fans booing you. That's what we're supporting.
The FA offered an apology, but some feel Wayne's substandard performances extended to his rant.
Everyone's like, it's a rant, it's a rant. You know what a rant is? A rant is if he walked off the pitch and went, oh, can you hear that? All the football fans of England having a go at us. Oh, well done, yeah? Look at me. I'm the player here. Yeah, I know you're all over here supporting me. How about some f***ing support, yeah? You have a bad day at the office? I've just had a bad day at the office. The last thing I need is 1,000 people booing in my face, all right? Then I'm going to sit in my room on the PlayStation, playing myself, listening to fans that aren't booing. That would have been a rant.
Some things lie beyond the limits of human understanding. Crop circles, for example, Stonehenge, and the Ivory Coast player Gervinho's hairstyle. But if you're an American, none of these things are as inexplicable as the shocking moments when the USA's last-minute winner against Slovenia was disallowed.
It was the most obvious goal.
Probably one of the worst decisions of the World Cup.
Then when it was disallowed, like I was angry, man.
Chasing a crucial 3 points in their second match against Slovenia, the Americans had gone 2-0 down before half-time. But they'd hauled themselves back in the second half to level the game. And then, in the dying seconds, won a free kick just outside the Slovenian penalty area.
In it goes, and it's in the back of the net. It's not going to count. Adu put it in, but it's not going to count. The referee's whistle had gone before Adu put the ball in the net.
I just wanted it to be in, you know, because 3-2 after 2-0 down, that would be one of the historical World Cup comebacks, you know?
How the referee can cancel that goal out is beyond me.
I was looking for reasons to support the referee, as I generally do, and I couldn't. The only thing I could see were potential penalties for America. Just a baffling decision.
The players had to be held back. It was like, dude, did you... Seriously? That was so in. That was such a great goal. That's so on. That's so an on goal. Let's give that an on goal. That's an on goal.
The referee, Koman Koulibaly of Mali, had denied the USA a memorable victory, a decision which baffled America.
You gotta understand, like in American football, the referee comes out with a microphone and explains to 80,000 people in the stadium, like, it's been a holding on number 62 on the offense, 5-yard penalty, still first down. Whereas this disallowed goal against Slovenia, and they're like, why? And the referee's like, none of your business.
Brazilian striker Kaká is the God-loving goody-goody of the football world.
Non-aggressive, very well brought up kid.
He's a type of bloke you'd love to take home to mum.
And so it was a shock of seismic proportions to see him sent off against the Ivory Coast for viciously attacking an opponent in an off-the-ball incident.
Anyone who knows him knows that, you know, I'm not going to be surprised if he gets a yellow card, never mind a red.
But the real shock was about to be revealed by the replays. Kaká had barely touched him.
You're the devil in disguise. Well, he certainly didn't hit him in the face. No.
The guy runs towards him and then falls, clutching his face.
It's his shoulder. That's disgraceful.
What's he doing? He falls down, holding his face, crying out.
This is all professional footballers now. Any touch on any part of the body, it's the hold the face. If you did that in a real fight outside a pub, someone like hit you in the arm and you went down, I mean, you'd get beaten up more.
Thanks to the Ivorians' play acting, Kaká was suspended for Brazil's next game.
We were angry because Kaká is our little
Friends. It was ludicrous, it was pathetic.
That's right, Fernando, and of course a Brazilian would never behave like that, eh? Oh, right. With John Terry ditched as England skipper after his sexual shenanigans.
John Terry has been sacked as England captain.
Steven Gerrard ended up as captain for the World Cup, and after 2 disappointing draws against the USA and Algeria, the fans expected their leader to stand up and put things right. The stage was set for Captain Gerrard. Hang on, what's John Terry doing here? Yep, it seemed forgetful Terry still thought he was the captain.
He might have thought, well, you can take the captaincy away, but you can't stop me from captaining the team.
And I've said since I lost the armband, nothing's ever changed for me.
The same way, if you got sacked, you might just keep turning up at work until there was a restraining order.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and question the manager. All I can say is I'm here on behalf of the team and the players.
It starts off fairly innocuously because he says, listen, I'm not here to criticise the manager.
And then he did, revealing he and other players were going to give manager Fabio Capello what for at an impending team meeting.
There's no point keeping it in, whether we have an argument with the manager or it upsets him, us expressing our opinions. Everyone needs to get off their chest exactly how they're feeling.
Afterwards, me and all the people just looked at each other and we all just sort of thought, did he just say that?
I mean, when he said, doesn't matter if Capello doesn't like what he's going to hear, I was like, okay. Wow.
And it was just an incredible moment.
I think it was born out of frustration, and I think it was personal frustration from his point of view, and also the way that the team was.
Maybe there'll be a few of us sent home after this evening.
He's there thinking, I can start an uprising here, yeah, everyone still loves me.
But there was one small problem.
Who's with me? Who's with me? Yeah? No?
Suddenly all the players go, well, I never told him to say it, and they all turn away and they all dip into the shadows and, well, he did it on his own.
Yes, Terry wasn't leading a revolution, he was staging a one-man coup.
I've come here to win this tournament, I don't want to go home on Wednesday.
A lot of players saw it as an attempt of his to kind of seize control. I think it backfired badly.
He was trying to get back at Fabio Capello for sacking him as England captain. It's plain and simple.
Capello was chillingly blunt.
The group win always against one.
And at the team meeting, no players, not even brave John Terry, uttered a word.
Fabio Capello obviously wasn't going to like it. I wouldn't have liked it. Fabio Capello wasn't going to like it. And when Fabio Capello says he will regret it, he will make him regret it at some point.
You kind of expected Terry to wake up the next morning with a horse's head in his bed, didn't you?
The man with a reputation as a philanderer had now only succeeded in shafting himself.
He, for me, should never play for England again.
Nobody wanted him as the new leader in the dressing room, and that's why it was one of the shortest revolutions you'll ever see.
We've got used to footballers showing their emotions at the World Cup, but one of the biggest shocks of 2010 was seeing North Korea's Young Tae-si sobbing like a baby even before kickoff.
He was just an emotional wreck, and I've no idea why he was crying.
The pride of representing your country and wearing a shirt representing your country to play your heart out.
He was about to play his first World Cup match for North Korea, a country that generally sends losers down the mines, and he just realised he was facing the mighty Brazil. Uh-oh.
Maybe he'd seen the sniper pointing at him saying, score, score.
Fear. That's what it was. He was scared.
Young cried his eyes out through the national anthem and became a cult hero in the process. But his waterworks had opened the floodgates, and soon everyone was blubbing. Occasionally, even non-stop football can weary the soul. And you know when cameramen think that because suddenly their attention seems to wander.
Are there specific cameramen whose job it is to find fit people? There must be someone who's really good at doing it. It must be like, who's the biggest pervert? Like, Dave, yeah, you're on woman duty.
But the shock in 2010 was that a woman watching back home in Paraguay became even more famous than the players she was supporting. Larissa Riquelme.
She's rather well endowed, you have to say. In fact, she found it very handy to keep her BlackBerry down there at all times. She said if Paraguay beat Spain, she would run naked round the streets of Paraguay, and you could imagine how many men were like, please can they win, please can they win. Spain unfortunately went on to win for the Paraguayans and for most of the male population, I have to say. Even for me, and I'm a girl, she was gorgeous.
As we've seen, it had been a bad year for John Terry. There were allegations of an affair, his dad had been arrested for dealing drugs, he'd been sacked as England captain, and the World Cup campaign was stuttering, but he wasn't ready to give in.
Sod it, we've got one game where we can make or break our tournament.
And he had the opportunity to atone for his mistakes and be the hero in a crucial win-or-bust game against Slovenia.
It's Milner, Defoe tries to get there!
Despite England going 1-0 up, it was a tense match, and Slovenia were pushing England to breaking point. Then, in one dramatic moment, Terry spotted his chance and went for it.
And look at John Terry!
It will be an iconic image because it looks like a man who's putting his heart and soul into stopping the opposition, doing anything he can for England, for the team, for the cause, for his country.
That's what we love in this country, we love a hero.
With that one moment, he literally went from being a love rap sleazeball to being John Terry Lionheart.
Nonsense. His behaviour before the World Cup and his behaviour during the World Cup was one of the reasons why England haven't done particularly well.
It was sort of a really crap Superman impression. It's such an English thing as well, isn't it? Because he didn't even get the ball.
What he should have done was gone in front of it, taken it square in the nuts. And I think every man in this country would then have gone, right, you're back in our good books.
The 2010 World Cup was a heartwarming family affair. There were fathers and sons, father-in-laws and son-in-laws and brothers everywhere. Paraguay had the Barreto brothers, the Torres played for Ivory Coast, and Honduras took 3 Palacios brothers, but then it is a very small country. But the most shocking of all the World Cup siblings were Kevin Prince Boateng and his half-brother Jerome, who made competition history when they lined up for the Germany versus Ghana game on opposite sides.
Growing up with a brother who's called Prince and you're just called Jerome, you know, that's going to be hard to deal with to start off with, isn't it?
I've played football against my sister in the back garden and it gets pretty nasty. It really does. So, and that's quite a big game in my opinion, but the World Cup, there's nothing bigger.
As if this sibling rivalry wasn't enough, the two brothers hadn't spoken since the Ghanaian Boateng had injured the German talisman Michael Ballack nearly 2 months earlier.
To add insult to injury, it was Kevin Prince Boateng who was involved with the injury to Michael Ballack in the Premier League, which ruled the Germany captain out of the World Cup. What did his brother say about that?
I wonder if he got a phone call that night and go, what the are you doing? Well, look, man, it's just, you know, I couldn't play for Germany, and if I can't play for Germany, no one's playing for Germany. So it's lucky I didn't take you out as well, so shut your face, because I'm off training with Ghana.
The whole German nation are like, oh, they didn't like Boateng, but they did like Boateng. So they were kind of, for those fans who were sort of shouting, I love Boateng, they were like, which one? Which one do you like? Because one of them's ruined our chances, yeah?
The two brothers studiously ignored each other throughout the 90 minutes, but it was Jerome who won their Who Plays for the Best Country competition when Germany won the match and went all the way to the semi-finals. The Brazilian striker Luis Fabiano came into the World Cup having not scored an international goal for 9 months, but he finally broke his duck against the Ivory Coast.
First big chance of the game for Brazil, and he's taken it. And the goal counts. He's ended.
And then added a brilliant second.
And Shelley goes on here. Kolo Toure steps across. Brilliant ball juggling. He's finished in magnificent style.
There was only one tiny problem.
Fabiano blatantly handles the ball. Not once, but twice in the same move.
But the real shock was that the commentators completely ignored it.
It was a magnificent, pure bit of Brazilian skill in the build-up. You know, his technique was excellent. Just a suspicion maybe of handball there. No, I don't think so.
The Brazilians could come on with shotguns, and the commentators would say, I mean, this is the creativity we've come to expect from the Brazilians.
His shoulder, maybe.
But it was about to get even more shocking. As the commentators had shown, any fool can miss a blatant bit of obvious cheating. But it takes someone like French ref Stéphane Lannoy to find such a massive error hilarious.
I started a joke, which started the whole world crying.
Laurent Duhamel, the French referee, goes up to him almost in a joking fashion, as if to ask him did he handle it and everything else, and it just strikes you as wrong and maybe uncomfortable allowing the goal. But what you don't do is go up and have a laugh with the player that may well have handled it.
Fabulous going, no, what, off this? No, that would be handball, I know, ref. Little nudge, little cuddle, little, come here, referee, yeah, come on. The referee's going, I thought so, because everyone's like, just, oh, they're so nasty, aren't they? What a great goal, well done. See you afterwards.
For some possibly odd fans, dressing up was the only way to enjoy the 2010 World Cup. There were fancy dress capellos, fancy dress wrestlers, and fancy dress monarchs. We saw knights in tarnished armour, Oompa Loompas, scary men with false beards, and posh explorers.
Come on, Fabio and the boys.
But the award for the most surprising outfit went to these North Korean fans, who, the shocking rumour had it, weren't actually from North Korea.
And there's a rumour the fans were actually Chinese.
That's right, because he's long since banned North Korean citizens from travelling abroad, Kim Jong-il is said to have hired Chinese actors to take their place.
I actually saw them in the airport. It was strange, you know, as some sort of sect.
They look like a bunch of competition winners, and they just sat there, just smiling. You look at them, you just thought, they are so not football fans.
It's like when you remember the first day of school when you got your uniform and everyone stood there and looked uncomfortable. They just looked like they'd just been given it just before they walked into the ground. Here you go, you're watching the football today, North Korea is supporting them, here's your kit, here's your hat, scarf, it goes on this way.
It was business as usual for Brazil, who added to their cheated goals by playing with typical South American flair. They were good in defence too, with centre-back Felipe Melo emerging as a bit of a star.
Brazil had been so imperious throughout the competition. They'd been absolutely super solid at the back.
And in their quarter-final against Holland, their good form continued.
The whole thing seemed to be clicking for Brazil. It was an unbelievable game.
Melo laid on a perfect pass for the opening goal.
Maybe about to change. Robinho has swept Brazil into the lead.
We were playing better, but somehow there was something in the air.
Then everything changed with a shocking moment from Melo.
Good ball. Oyers missed it. Julio Cesar missed it. And the Netherlands are level.
First, he became the only Brazilian in history to score an own goal in the World Cup, although FIFA inexplicably gave the goal to Wesley Sneijder.
Melo just gets a glancing header to it, and then out of nowhere the Dutch are back in the game.
Then, minutes after Holland had scored a sloppy second, things got even worse for Melo. Perhaps angry with Arjen Robben's inability to stand up properly, he completed a shocking double by stamping on it.
And the referee's given a red card! Felipe Melo! What a miserable day he's had!
Well, the sending off of Felipe Melo was basically a stupid moment.
What a stupid decision by Melo.
Melo's meltdown resulted in Brazil getting dumped out of the World Cup.
It's all over! Brazil are out!
He must be an absolute national disgrace.
The supporters are pretty much blaming him for what happened. So he's pretty much public enemy number one.
The saying goes, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Never has that been more appropriate than for Frank Lampard, who broke a shocking record whilst at the World Cup.
Lampard to hit it. And Lampard to send it soaring into orbit.
For the most shots in the tournament's history without scoring.
It's Lampard!
Yep, following on from 2006, his shocking stats read, played 9, goals none, shots 40.
It's a stat that he probably doesn't really want, but he'll live with it.
Yeah, it's good play by Frank Lampard.
Us English people can now be proud of something, that a player's had more shots than anyone else and not scored. That's something like a little moral victory. We can have a little medal. I haven't scored, but I think if you look at the stats, I'm very close. Any minute now, I will finally score.
The record-breaking moment came with this wall-busting effort against Germany that took him to 37, surpassing previous holder Nigeria's JJ Okocha.
JJ Okocha must be feeling robbed. There's no two ways about it. JJ Okocha cannot potentially play again another match, so he can't add to his tally.
Frank's had a great strike, and it's one of those cases, I suppose, if you buy enough tickets, hopefully, eventually you win the lottery.
And of course, eventually Frank did win the lottery, only to find someone had torn up his ticket. But more of that later. Gabrielle Heinz has a girl's Christian name, long girly hair, and a surname that makes you think of beans. The perfect target, you'd think, for widespread mockery and bullying.
Girly, what you doing?
Easy, Loro, because it turns out Heinz is a bit of a bully himself.
You know, one of those horrible players, moany, bit nasty, bit late all the time, just, yeah, player you love to hate.
And he showed us all why he's quite an unpopular chap in a game against Mexico.
And this has got to be one of my favourite moments of the whole World Cup.
While celebrating teammate Higuain's goal, he took a moment to give us and a poor cameraman a shock.
Gabriel Heinz turns around, bam! I swear it hit his head. Absolutely hilarious. He hits the camera.
And Heinz just did what blokes do. He did that macho thing. You get a little knock, you've got to smack back harder. You've got to prove you're macho in front of the lads when they're watching behind you.
It's like, do I look feminine? Not anymore. Maybe a cameraman killed his dad or something, I don't know. It's a weird reaction.
Perhaps proof that not all footballers love the camera. Everyone was very excited about the quarter-final between favourite Spain and surprise package Paraguay. Two teams full of flair who'd scored great goals.
We'd been looking forward to yet another exhibition from the Spanish.
But we were all surprised when it was a rubbish non-event until the 57th minute when something shocking unfolded.
One of the many strange things about football is that the dullest games suddenly burst into life in the most extraordinary fashion.
I don't ever recollect a moment like that in World Cup history.
It wasn't a shocking moment. It was 2 shocking minutes and a tale of 4 penalties. First, Paraguay got one and blew it.
Save!
Then a minute later, Spain got one too.
Penalty Spain! Oh, good play. Alonso gives Spain the lead.
And then another one.
He's got to take it again. The drama continues. It's Alonso and the keeper save. It comes out to Fabregas. In goes the goalkeeper with a challenge.
And should have had another.
Spain wants another penalty.
Well, drama. The game sprang into life at last.
So yeah, it's mental. It was as if all of a sudden it turned into a table football game. It was just like flying back. You couldn't know what was going on.
After a ridiculous 2 minutes, the game was somehow still goalless.
If you went and put a kettle on, you'd have missed the whole drama.
I went to the toilet for 2 minutes, came back, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, you've just missed the most exciting." I was like, seriously?
That's how this World Cup was almost. It was like isolated, dramatic moments. If you blinked, you might have missed something amazing.
Iniesta still plays it into Pedro. Off the post, David Villa. Off the post, and in.
Spain did manage to score later and won 1-0, but the game will be remembered for 120 seconds of spot kick surrealism. "2010 was the first time the World Cup was hosted in Africa, and we were excited to see what the cradle of humankind had in store for us.
Before the World Cup, we were being told that, listen, it's South Africa. This is a soulful nation. The singing, the great voices of the country, the spirit of the people. So we thought we were going to get this great chorus of beautiful song voices coming from the stands. All we got was...
Yes, the Vuvuzela.
It just sounded like this big swarm of bees. Do you know what I mean? Just...
What the f*** is that?
That is the most annoying sound in the world.
It was as if in 1990, instead of the sound of Pavarotti and the beautiful tenor voice, the World Cup had been played out to Vespers revving up all the time.
I thought the Vuvuzela was an absolute assault on the ears, and this is from someone who comes from a country that produced the bagpipes.
The problem was that it took away the sort of natural soundtrack of a football game.
Love them or hate them, it will be the Vuvuzela that will be remembered from South Africa.
They ruined games, annoyed fans, and made on-pitch communication impossible. Let's pray this is one bit of culture that won't make it out of Africa. Our comedy Fall Guys, North Korea, had shocked the world by managing to lose only 2-1 to Brazil, even scoring a goal at one point.
I thought they did a really, really good job on Brazil and looked pretty impressive, and I thought, you know, they could be the dark horse in the tournament.
But the Koreans had been using a secret weapon, developed in secret by Kim Jong-il.
After the Brazil game, one of their head coaches then revealed that all the coaches had invisible mobile phone earpieces in their ears, invented by the Korean government, in order purely for Kim Jong-il to give instructions to them during the game.
Maybe the phone had made the difference, maybe it didn't, but their brave performance against Brazil persuaded the hardline Korean government to actually broadcast their next game, the first time a football match would ever be shown live in North Korea.
위대한 용도자 김정일 동지의 불의의 고전적 노작들인 조선노동당은 위대한 수령 김일성 동지의 당이다와.
So they show the next game live where they happen to play Portugal, who are not as good as Brazil. You think, oh well, we might get a draw, might even beat them.
Welsh making the run into the penalty area. Rather else for Portugal.
At half-time, it looked like a reasonable decision. Korea were 1-0 down and still in the game. But in the second half, it went horribly, horribly wrong.
For Welsh and 2-0. Almeida waits in the centre. Almeida! It's free.
They got pounded.
And Thiago with a shot. 4-0 Portugal.
I bet they could not believe what they were seeing.
Lietz on, and it's 5.
What did they think was going to happen? They were going to win the World Cup?
Surely it's the 6th goal. We have a 7th goal. They have been on the end of a royal thrashing here, the likes of which you do not see very often at the highest level of the international game.
Kim Jong-il was reportedly quite upset indeed, and the squad was subjected to a 6-hour dressing down by government officials.
I read in the newspapers that the entire North Korean team had been sent to work on a building site by way of punishment, and all of the international community were appalled by that, other than the Polish team, who were like, lucky
The most positively unshocking sight in World Cup football is a German scoring a penalty. As everyone knows, the Germans are cold-blooded spot kick machines. In fact, the last time a German missed a penalty at a major tournament was in 1982. Since then, 20 have been taken, each one finding the net with a brutal, ruthless metronomic efficiency.
They're always taking penalties. They know how to take penalties. They never miss a penalty on the world stage.
But then, at 2:29 p.m. on the 18th of June, came a moment that shocked the world.
Podolski with the penalty for Germany. Saved! It was an appalling penalty kick. Lacked power. And Germany have let Serbia off the hook.
For a German player to miss a penalty is unheard of.
It was an appalling penalty kick.
No one could believe it.
I just don't get it.
The Germans were shell-shocked. Everyone else naturally commiserated with them.
This penalty miss, I kind of liked it.
It's history and Germany, it's always nice to see that happen.
It was such a sweet feeling to see it happen. It really was nice.
But how could this have happened?
So quickly after he missed that penalty, one of the commentators said, well, he is technically Polish, so not a natural German. That might explain it.
What is it? No, no.
If you're an official in an all-important World Cup match, the worst thing that can happen is if you make a massive howling error. And a shock was in store for experienced Italian referee Roberto Rossetti and his assistant Stefano Airoldi, who were officiating a last 16 match between Argentina and Mexico.
Messi through, Tevez off after it, good goalkeeping, but Messi, Tevez, 1-0. Mexico look for offside, it's not given.
The Tevez goal against Mexico was extraordinary. He was practically back in Argentina when he scored it.
Well, as that ball's played forward by Messi, Tevez is in offside position.
And even if you don't understand the offside rule, I think it still looks odd.
It was a shocking decision, but unfortunately things were about to get even more shocking.
Oh my God, they've shown the replay.
I just glanced up at the screen, and obviously they never show contentious issues in the stadium. Otherwise, it can cause a riot. And it just showed the replay.
Why not provoke a riot? I mean, a way to provoke a riot. I mean, why not show the Argentinian men abusing Mexican mothers?
And all the players were standing there watching the giant screen inside the stadium, and then ran across to the assistant. They're arguing across the far side now. Oh, they're talking about...
Oh my goodness, look at this.
The Mexicans, very rightly, said to Rossetti, have a look. And Rossetti kind of peers at it from the corner of his eye.
And then you see the assistant put his hand in his mouth like this. He's obviously saying to the referee, oh, I've got this wrong.
They even caught the ref going...
When you know you're wrong and you just want the ground to open up and swallow you, horrible. The look on his face told you all you needed to know. He knew at that moment that was the end of his World Cup.
The assistant across the far side has seen the mistake.
Yeah,
the Argentinian play, yes. They don't usually play the replay like that. He's made a mistake, he knows it, Steve.
The World Cup had seen mistakes before, but never had they been broadcast to the entire stadium immediately afterwards. Now the players, fans, coaches and officials knew it wasn't a goal, but it had to stand.
Laws of the game wouldn't allow the referee to reconsider based on a video. He wanted to, it looked that way, didn't it? But he's not allowed to, and rightly he stuck with his decision, but that must have been tough.
Yeah, who on earth would want video replays? It was a laughable situation, but the Mexicans couldn't see the funny side as they came off for half-time.
And there are now scuffles with the Argentine bench, and Roberto Rossetti, the Italian referee, has to intervene here because the Mexicans are deeply cross about what happened around the first goal.
Mexico couldn't fight back on the pitch and were dumped out of the competition. The following day, Rossetti was left off the list to referee another match and promptly retired. The linesman who actually made the mistake just kept his head down.
The one thing you can guarantee after this game, whoever's in charge of replays won't be working again.
well for 45 minutes, but you've got to be...
For some, the World Cup is as much about the pundits as the football. One of the new boys was Man City's Emmanuel Adebayor.
I could have listened to him all night. He just has one of those voices that, as a woman, he just melts you.
Yeah, all right, Lindsay. But despite the dreamy voice, Adebayor was about to make a shocking schoolboy error.
He has to be the mass of the team, and he's doing that quite well. So.
Is that you, is it?
Adebayor's face, comical timing. I think he could get a career in stand-up. Just there, just like... And you could see Alan Sugar going, what's going on here?
It's more or less rule number one if you're going into a TV studio that you turn your phone off.
But even more shocking was who was on the other end.
To answer that, it's not Samuel Eto'o, is it? Or Roger Miller.
Maybe Lindsay wanting some pillow talk. Nope. Later, Emmanuel revealed the truth.
I was waiting for my wife to call me and tell me the baby is dead, and you know, that phone call was about my baby.
And he pressed end as well.
Yep, his wife called to say she'd just given birth to a baby girl, and like a true gent, he just hung up.
To become a dad live on television, I think is brilliant. I know a number of women who don't think that's brilliant.
Still, at least it's amused his fellow pundit.
That's probably the most excited or happy I've ever seen Alan Shearer.
Shearer was laughing at him, you know, and that's just footballer coming out, and you know, it's like, well, thank God it's not me.
Hansen always says, like, you know, if you fail to prepare to fail.
Yeah, you'd never catch Hansen making the same mistake.
I think that's my phone that's gone.
It was England's most shocking moment in the World Cup.
Space, and Ozil's found him.
They'd just gone 4-1 down against Germany with 20 minutes left to play. England were about to make a sub. One last desperate chance to rescue our summer. But there was hope. We had a saviour on the bench. We had a man who'd scored 21 goals in 40 games for England. The stage was set, and then came the moment. The big man, Crouch. Heskey? What?
We need a goal. We bring Emile Heskey on and take Jermaine Defoe off.
I don't really know why Peter Crouch has left on the bench so many times. He's been so good scoring goals for England.
Peter Crouch's goal-to-game record is 50-50, you know? Better probably than anybody else who plays for England.
In one of the most shocking moments of England's tournament, on-trundled Emile Heskey. Fabio Capello had put the hopes of the nation on the shoulders of a man who'd only scored 5 all season. England needed 3 goals in 20 minutes.
Why? Exactly. When you have the last roll of the dice, the person you want to bring on is not Heskey. Comedically, the only good substitution is Crouch and Defoe. You've got to send them on at the same time. Doesn't matter about the football, because we'll all have a laugh.
Every World Cup throws up something that baffles even Stephen Hawking. This time around, it was an unbelievable howler by Nigeria's Yakubu Aiyegbeni.
I'm speechless.
It was unreal.
It is that bad.
With the Super Eagles 2-1 down to South Korea in a match they had to win to avoid expulsion, he was provided with a surefire goal on a plate. And then this happened.
On the overlap here from Aina. Oh, it was an easy chance, and how on earth has that not gone into the back of the net from Yakubu?
You're unbelievable.
Yakubu's miss has to be the worst miss in a World Cup Finals tournament ever.
It's virtually unmissable. It just needs putting into the back of the net. You know, you'd expect a 10-year-old to do it.
Simply staggering.
All he has to do is stick his foot out and poke it in.
Miss of the World Cup.
It was one of those, you know, when people say, oh, my gran could have scored that.
My grandma could have scored that.
No, my gran actually could have scored that, and she's no longer with us. That's how easy that shot was.
The game finished 2-2, Nigeria crashed out of the World Cup, and the miss now surely ranks as the most shocking in World Cup history.
Oh dear.
Narrowly edging out a previous favourite from 1994.
Yakubu's job is to score goals, Diana Ross's job is to sing.
You're unbelievable.
The BBC's pundit team consists of some of the sharpest minds in the game who analyse and predict with unerring accuracy.
we win the game. They're capable of it, there's no doubt about that.
It ends here for England.
Sorry, I think that should read unerring inaccuracy. Apart from one, no, not Mark Lawrenson, Paul, the well-known psychic octopus.
If an octopus can do your job, then you know that you need to be doing something better with your life.
Yes, Paul was making a splash by predicting World Cup results from his tank in the aquarium in the German city of Oberhausen with frightening accuracy.
They put him in his tank, had 2 little boxes with countries' flags on them, and put mussels in each, and he had to go to whichever box he was hungriest for, and whatever country was on that, well, that was the one that was going to win.
We could have lowered 2 players' wives into a tank with John Terry and maybe seen which one he went for.
He's an animal, he's hungry, he's going to open the one that's nearest to him and get the food out of it. It was just bloody stupid, man.
No, he was a psychic octopus. Paul correctly predicted the outcome of 8 out of 8 matches, wowing the public and making a few enemies.
He had all his reactions to Argentina with Argentinian chefs saying, "We're going to eat you, Paul."
It's weird because the person at the Sea Life Centre that he was based in, the German guy, was saying, yes, Paul's aware of the death threats, but he's not afraid.
But the story got even better when we found out he was our octopus.
The English tabloids, when they discovered the octopus was born in Weymouth, actually went overboard, actually adopted the octopus as a... Before then, it was just, oh, look at the Germans. Look at that, they got an octopus being lured into a tank. Look at that, like, what, he's English? He's a clever little fella, that one, isn't he?
He was the talk of the tank and a celebrity, and now he's even got his own Mr. 20%.
Definitely the most unusual client on my books. It's going to be on coins in Liechtenstein. There's going to be a book out at Christmas. He's working for a big supermarket chain in Germany at the moment. We have Japanese commercial agents wanting to use him in...
Come on, tell us. Do you take your 20% in fish?
I understand you've done a bit of goalkeeping, David.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I read that you've actually won loads of medals.
Yeah, quite a lot.
And that you're England's second most capped goalkeeper.
Actually, yeah.
Ever made?
Poor old Rob Green came into the World Cup as one of 3 England keepers, all in with a chance of claiming the #1 spot, so he must have been simply thrilled to have been handed the goalkeeping jersey to face the USA in our opening game.
Kick-off of England's 13th World Cup finals. The road starts in Rustenburg.
As we've seen, England got off to a dream start, going 1-0 up after just 4 minutes.
Gerrard in the box! Steven Gerrard scores!
It was just euphoric. Everyone in the pub where I was just went mental.
And England's captain has scored England's first goal of the 2010 World Cup.
That feeling that, whoa, it's already happening was fantastic.
Come on, Gerrard! Come on!
England believed. The tournament lay ahead of us like a sunlit savannah, and we had 11 lions on the pitch. But then, in the 40th minute came the shocking moment that would alter the course of England's entire World Cup campaign.
This is Dempsey.
Clint Dempsey got the ball, and it's almost as if time slowed down. Took a shot which was rolling at a pace, I think it was going about that fast.
It was basically a pass back. He passed the ball to our goalie, just giving the ball back, here you go.
And Robert Green thought, don't worry lads, I got this one, I got this one.
And I just thought there's nothing of it, and I kind of turned away, thought he was going to go for a kick.
This is Dempsey. Decent try, Green spilled it! The United States are level, and it's a nightmare moment for Rob Green. Oh dear, oh dear.
Oh my goodness.
He had the shocker. Not a shocker, the shocker.
Biggest game of his career so far, and he's gifted a goal to the USA.
I saw him look back, and I actually thought he was looking back at his career that had once been.
He sort of cowered down, just sat there for a moment or two, as if he was hoping, well, if I can't see them, they can't see me. This hasn't happened.
You actually feel sorry for him because there's just literally no hiding place.
You feel distraught, you know, you just want to disappear. You're angry at yourself, frustrated.
It had lasted only a split second, but it changed Rob Green's life forever.
It's not that easy being green.
When you've made a calamitous, horrendous mistake, you know, as big as that and as important as that, it's always going to be difficult to come back from it, no matter what you do.
It could be nicer being red or yellow or gold.
And there's just no way back. There really is no way back.
It'll be the sort of thing where in 20 years cabbies are still asking about it and saying things like, you should have just held on to the ball, mate.
All he's done is just mistakenly let a ball go through his fingers.
And unfortunately, you know, that's what he will probably be remembered for the rest of his life.
There was no way back for Rob Green. Capello turned his back on him, he was unceremoniously dropped for the next match, and England's World Cup party never really recovered.
From that moment onwards, the team went downhill. That's what hit everyone after when we came out of the stadium, is that, oh yeah, it's this again. Oh yeah, we've got to deal with this. And we're here for, what, 4 weeks?
It's what I want to be.
It was the 11th of July in Johannesburg. In fact, it was the 11th of July almost everywhere. And everyone was sitting down to watch Holland versus Spain in the World Cup final.
The biggest sporting event, you know, on the planet.
But this was no ordinary final. England were in it. Not the players, obviously, they were all licking their wounds on Caribbean beaches. No, England would be represented by Howard Webb, a 39-year-old policeman from Rotherham.
Sylvester Sutcliffe, Sergeant Webb.
To referee the World Cup final is the greatest honour a referee can have.
And what I've learned over 10 years as a police officer, if nothing else, is how to handle people, how to manage people in stressful situations.
He's a really, really good referee, and of course he uses his police officer experience to look a bit more aloof, sir.
We saw interviews with his dad and his mum. They were like beaming with their proudness.
Oh, absolutely delighted. For Howard, really delighted. You know, and he's worked so hard, he's trained so hard.
English fans, English journalists weren't scared. We knew that Webb would do the job.
It was Howard's dream day, but it was about to turn into a nightmare.
On a cool night in Johannesburg, the biggest game in football begins.
And what do you know? One of the worst games for refereeing you could probably imagine.
Oh dear, oh dear.
I'd never seen anything like it. It was such a violent game.
Hope no one's having a tea at home.
And it was a test, it was an ordeal, it was not pleasant.
It was unrefereeable, wasn't it?
The Spanish weren't exactly blameless, but the Dutch were dirtier than a seedy Amsterdam cinema.
That's a cruncher. It's Van Bommel. That is a booking.
Wait that long to get in a final and then you just start kicking the out of the opposition. It seems like a waste of time.
Howard didn't have his truncheon with him, so he lashed out with yellow cards instead.
Another yellow card coming.
14 of them in all, as he desperately tried to keep the game alive.
I mean, he might as well just have gone at the start, OK, pick a card, any card. Don't show it to me.
That must be more than half the players booked.
But there was one tackle that was even more shocking than all the others put together.
Alonso has been caught, and very heavily indeed, and that's got everybody on the Spanish bench up to their feet. Took him out.
The guy could have died, you know, the way he was kicked.
He is looking. That was reckless, out of control, Nigel de Jong.
Surely Howard had to do something now.
That's got to be a straight red, surely. In Kung Fu, that he would have been disqualified. They would have said that's too rough for Kung Fu.
But somehow, even for this tackle, Howard still only showed a yellow.
That's an obvious red card. And of course it's obvious. It's obvious to you, it's obvious to me, it's obvious to anyone watching. If you see that challenge as we did with replay and everything else, then it's a red card. Well, the only conclusion you can have, and I know this for a fact, is Howard Webb did not see that challenge.
He's incredibly lucky to still be on the field.
Howard eventually had to show a red card, and the Spanish won one of the ugliest ever finals amidst a storm of controversy. Webb was booed by both sets of fans as he collected his medal, a rare achievement, and later complained it had been the worst 2 hours of his entire life.
Well, Howard Webb did his level best. Oh dear. He's getting an almighty reception, and not in a positive way.
Well, at least England was still proud of him.
It was weird watching the final because you find yourself supporting Howard Webb. It's brilliant, and you didn't really care about the rest of the game. And then you have all of that, and 3 weeks later the season starts, and he goes back to being a
With the other African teams falling by the wayside, Ghana were the sole quarter-final representatives of the host continent. No pressure there then, just the hopes of 53 countries and every single neutral fan in the world on their shoulders.
Ghana had the chance to put Africa's foot in the semi-finals of a World Cup for the first time.
Everyone was supporting the underdog, obviously. You're in Africa, the first World Cup in Africa, you want an African team to do well, and Ghana with that team. And here they are sort of on a groundbreaking moment.
They were more than holding their own and even scored first against Uruguay.
Oh, and Muntari scores!
Before Diego Forlan equalised with a stunning free kick.
It's Diego Forlan equalises with a stunner!
But it'd be Forlan's strike partner, Luis Suarez, who'd make all the headlines.
To see that was really gut-wrenching.
Probably the most shocking moment of the entire World Cup.
I don't know if I could ever forgive him as a player for doing that.
It was a nail-biting finish, and then in the very last minute of extra time, and with penalties looming, came the moment that shocked Africa.
But it's a clear handball.
Coming with rhythms to make your head jerk.
It was horrible to watch, just this huge sense of injustice when he did it. You know, people standing up, how dare you do that? Send him off, send him off.
Yeah, obviously it was shocking when Suarez handballed it, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it was just great to finally see a good bit of goalkeeping.
I wouldn't want to be too controversial on this show, but I think it probably was a handball.
Yes, it was handball, and Suarez was red carded.
That's a red card! Does this mean Ghana have got a penalty with the last kick of the game? Oh, I do not believe it!
Suarez could have taken his medicine and walked off and been very humble about it. But no, he did that footballing thing. He started crying.
It still left Ghana a golden chance to get into the semi-final with the last kick of the match and send a continent delirious.
Asamoah Gyan for Ghana! Oh, and he's missed! Oh, I cannot believe it! And it was the last kick.
And when it hit the crossbar, it was just... it was horrible. It was, I don't know, it really was like someone had ripped my guts out.
It was a miss that reverberated around the world, making Suarez public enemy #1 for a piece of scandalous cheating. And Suarez was about to do something else just as shocking.
He was walking down the tunnel, and when he realised that we'd missed the penalty, he was celebrating and jumping around like, yes, I got him.
Yes! Look what I've done. I cheated and I got away with it.
But Ghana still had a chance as the match went to a penalty shootout. Showing incredible bravery, up-stepped Gyan again. This time he scored. But Uruguay held their nerve and with a cocky chip knocked Ghana out of Africa's World Cup.
Africa's last representatives at this World Cup are going home.
While the Ghana players were inconsolable, Suarez rubbed it in. He had cheated on a grand scale and he celebrated like a hero with his teammates.
Let's celebrate. No one likes celebrating cheating. I mean, come on.
And then he's in the press saying, oh yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done. That's the real hand of God. And not only that, he's a national hero in Uruguay. There you go. Ultimate panto villain.
It was the 26th of July. It was the second round of the World Cup and it was time to renew one of the biggest rivalries in world football.
We've had a bad World Cup, scraped through, we've got the Germans.
The biggest game of this World Cup so far.
And I actually was swept up in the old England-Germany, we're going to do it, you know, the bulldog spirit.
It hadn't been pretty so far, but the three Lions were finally ready to roar.
There's always the anticipation and hope that going in that this might be the one where we just, I don't know, we all start to click, we all start to put it together.
No second chances now. Mark, England have been made slight favourites, but this is desperately close to call.
England expected. But from the start of the game, the Germans proceeded to brush aside the English defence like a panzer tank through a church fete.
Miroslav Klose has given Germany the lead. Podolski's made it too. England are in trouble.
After just half an hour, England found themselves 2-0 down. We needed something special to haul ourselves back into the game, like Matthew Upson's face.
Upson brings one back in. Yes, here we go.
It was 2-1. Then, seconds later, Frank Lampard finally broke his duck to level the game.
It's a brilliant finish.
When Lampard scored the equaliser, it was great. It was amazing. We were actually back in this game.
That's a lovely touch.
But something was horribly wrong. The Germans were still playing.
That surely crossed the line. It's not been given. Surely that was in.
Everyone see it. Seriously, everyone see it. Everyone in the stadium, everyone in the pub that I was in, everyone at home see it.
I literally just sat there and I kept saying, it's not fair. But it's not fair. It's not fair.
How do you disallow a goal where the jambalaya ball lands so far behind the line?
I was astonished that it wasn't given.
If it was any further over the line, it would have burst through the back of the net.
Was it over the line? Was it not? I'm not sure.
Here we go. Oh, it's so far in.
I've seen it. I've watched it several times. To me, it's still inconclusive.
What is it FIFA don't want? Technology. Thanks very much, Sepp Blatter. Well, I hope he's here. I hope he's squirming in his seat, by the way.
No, he's not really, Mark.
Mistake like this invariably land at the door of the referee. There's only one person who should answer for this goal not standing, and that's Sepp Blatter, the president of FIFA. He was the one who stood firmly against goal line technology.
Every commentator, every pundit, every journalist said, surely now is the time when we have goal line technology. I don't want it. I now get the rest of my life moaning about the injustice of that goal.
Pretty flimsy looking Germany wall.
It should have been 2-2 with everything to play for, but instead England came out for the second half chasing the game.
There's a big difference between going into half-time a goal down and at level scores.
It does change the course of the game. It does change the half-time team talk. It does change the way that the Germans feel about it.
Had that goal been given, our World Cup might have changed.
He's got plenty of time, and he smashed it home. Muller is over in acres of space, and Ozil has found him, and Muller has sealed it.
England lost 4-1, our worst ever result at a World Cup.
Once again.
Sucker punch number 2.
I was almost glad that they scored 4, really, because it took the excuse away. The excuse didn't really count anymore.
We were out, and the Germans finally had their revenge for '66.
Guess what it does tell us is that in football everything does even itself out. It just takes a bit longer sometimes.